This is Brett, and this is Jamie. About a year ago, they bought a 100-year-old building in Bryson City, North Carolina. It had been abandoned for decades, and it was on Main Street. They started rehabbing it every weekend. Now, a storefront portion of it is complete and operates as an art studio. But the work continues on the back building of this property. It will be converted into a short-term rental using local and repurposed material. This series will follow the progress until it's finished. On this episode, the storefront will be getting a major facelift with this custom painted sign by Ashley Hackshaw, Brett's wife. And also, Jaime, Brett, and the crew will be putting up drip edge and fascia on the back part of the building. So stay tuned, we're gonna show you how they did it. My gosh, I didn't even fix my hair yet this morning. What the heck? Anyway, Brett is the king of pushing the record button after you're done talking and then putting it in your pocket. And then as soon as you start talking, he hits the stop button. Oh, hammer. Dang drill. That's what you need.
And you need a bit for drilling through aluminum.
Is that what it's supposed to look like?
Nope.
Okay. This is what happens when you do stuff early in the morning. You like struggle. All right, I got a better bit. Let's try that one. Okay. Struggle is real, folks. Oh yeah.
One.
There it is. That was easy. Oh, how long would it take to get another one if we dropped this one?
You don't want to know. I'd kill you.
Almost 2 weeks for just aluminum.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I don't need no strap. It'll stay just fine.
It's fine. All right, Brett's happy. He's got his garage space back.
Woo!
Well, sort of. His garage is worse than mine. Anyway, look at this. Got this sign on top of my truck. Time to deliver. I'm not sure what's the deal with this sign at Brett's house, but clearly GPS is wrong. Jaime and Brett have actually worked together on one other huge project they did about a year ago, where they converted a 100-year-old home, a farmhouse, into another rental property, and it turned out amazing with the help of their wives. That's where it's going. Sign's going right there.
Okay, that's good. Scuff your rack up? We don't want to do that. Yeah. Got it, boys? Mark it.
Jamie's measuring to find the center point of the sign, and then he'll go over to the building and measure the center point of the building. That way when they install the sign, it actually ends up centered on the building. That sounds super simple, but you'd be surprised. It's always good to do a little thinking on a project like this because it's not something you do every day. Neither Jaime or Brett hang signs for a living, yet they're hanging a one-of-a-kind sign on a building on Main Street, and they don't want to mess it up because they can't get another one. Once the sign was positioned perfectly and leveled perfectly, it was time to run a masonry bit through those pre-drilled holes into this brick wall. Each one of those holes would then get a Tapcon screw that would hold this sign, about 15 in all. And here's the finished product. Thank you, Ashley, for actually taking a picture. This might be the nicest sign in all of Bryson City. Even though it's early in the morning, this is the latter part of the day. You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, the ladders.
Yep, I am ready.
Once the new sign was installed, everyone breathed a sigh of relief knowing that it was not damaged in the process of installing it, which does happen. Next, the guys got onto installing some of the fascia boards on the back part of this house. Okay, we're up here. We got this corner right here I've been working on. You can see we have our finished fascia and this extra
piece of wood. That's just for a little detail, and it actually protects the fascia better when the drip edge sticks out farther and the shingles stick out farther from the fascia. It protects the fascia board better. So this little part of soffit is actually kind of built like new construction, because we built this part new. And you can see how the plywood and the blocking for the soffit is. That's kind of conventional. Now we're merging with, over here is different. We have the old part of the house, so we're adding these flat pieces of blocking for our soffit to nail to, and it'll kind of all look the same on the outside when it's done, but we have to build them differently.
As a precaution, each one of these pieces of fascia board is painted on all 6 sides before it's installed. It will also be final coated after it's installed. That's important if you want it to last a while.
And I gotta show you something I do all the time. This piece of a 2x4, that's just a little block, just a dummy. Anyway, I just tacked that on there with some nails real quick. It gives me a positive stop to know where to put this piece of fascia right here without having to do any thinking, without having to stretch around the corner and feel to get the end lined up perfectly. I just bump it tight to the block, nail it in, remove the block, and then my other piece lines up perfectly flush. That's an easy way to do it. I like doing that. I do it all the time.
Here's that rake end piece of fascia being cut, and that's the top point right there. Now Jamie has a little block nailed at the top to position this piece so that it doesn't go too far or not far enough, and he gets a nice tight joint at the top. Once it's positioned, he'll tack it into place, and then he'll take that block off and add the other side tight to it. In most cases, we'll actually just run the other end long and then chop it in place to make sure it's an exact fit on both ends.
I always like to space out my ladder with a couple pieces of 2x so that the ladder doesn't crush the drip edge and the shingle overhang. And lastly, I add these safety blocks to the side so that your ladder doesn't slip off sideways when you try to come down. It's not very hard.
Go for a double.
No way, just a single.
Oof.
Can't drop this thing.
Oh! We're gonna have Rand, Jamie and Eric's dad here, prime these boards. They're gonna be our trim boards on the fascia. It's basically a deck board, ripped in half. Give us a nice little detail.
Shaft land.
Oh, I got you.
It's good to have some, but you don't want too much.
It's like having an offset club head. You know, it's just gonna make you slice or make you
That's right.
hook.
We don't want any pre-compensation, you know?
I gotcha. That board is not very straight yet. And we use hand saws a lot.
Once the finished fascia boards were installed over the sub fascia boards, it was time to install some drip edge. Usually you install the drip edge on the eaves first, which is the flat bottom part of the roof, and then you overlap the rake ends of the drip edge on top of that. That will be the most waterproof way we can do it.
Off a little bit, you can see that the paper overlaps the drip edge, but it doesn't hang past. Because if it did, you would see that white edge of this paper hanging out under the edge of the shingle. We do not want that. So all of the paper is cut back to be just short. Now, the side pieces overlap the paper. Well, I got this piece of flashing I made from a piece of gutter coil, and we got a little spot that needs some serious flashing, so I'm gonna try to figure it out. Good luck. Appreciate that.
Flashings around irregular roof connections is super important. In fact, I live in a house built by someone else that has weird roof intersections and it leaks. That's why Jamie is spending so much time to make sure this is right.
Now this, I wonder if I should cut that off a little bit though. Someday I'm gonna get a battery powered saw so I don't have to drag this cord everywhere. Dang. Yeah. Here we go.
Jaime is preventing future rot by trimming this board back so that the end grain doesn't sit on a wet surface constantly and just soak up moisture. There's so many houses with this issue, and this is one good way to fix it or keep it from happening to start with.
I guess I might just nail. I should have put the. No, I could. Yeah, after I get it nailed in. I'm ready, Big Freddy. You got it right? Hold on a sec.
Once the drip edge was finished on the eaves, they moved around and started on the rake ends. It's just tacked every several feet with a roofing tack, and the shingles will actually extend out about another inch past this drip edge on the edges. For aesthetics and for functionality, it's a great idea to get the top piece in one piece if you can, and just bend it around the ridge. Here Jaime is taking it from one side to the other to get a measurement. They will then clip the extra length and cut the top so it folds and it makes a nice tight crease.
Flashing is the icing on the cake.
And that wraps it up for another Saturday's progress on this 120 Main Street project. And it may not seem like a whole lot, but that's how this entire project has gotten done thus far, 1 4-hour stretch at a time every Saturday. And if they keep at it, it will get finished.
All right, well, I'm heading home. It's just a little bit after lunch. We got a ton of stuff done this morning. We got a nice, beautiful sign put up. We got a bunch of fascia boards put up, a bunch of blocking for our soffits. Even got some drip edge and got all the roofing paper trimmed up around the edges. A little bit of primer put on some boards. And man, it all looks like progress to me, so I'm thrilled to death. Time to go home, hang out with the boys. Well, thanks for checking out our video today. Hopefully this will be a good way for us to share our progress at 120 Main Street. A lot of people have wanted to have a way to follow along and see this thing through all the way to the end, even though it may be a very long time before we actually get it done. But at least you can kind of see it all, you know, kind of happen quickly on the video. And that'll be a lot more fun than actually building it in person and having to go out here and work every Saturday for a year. You probably can't even hear me because of all the cars. Well, actually, cars aren't bad. It's really just motorcycles, you know, with their big rumbly motorcycle engines